Newspapers. We're joined by the community editor and columnist at The National, Shona Craven, and the editor-at-large, The Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. Shona, Charlotte, thanks both for being with us, and happy Saturday morning to you. Charlotte, let's start with you and this story on the front of The Sun.
Yeah, this is the Southport killer has poured boiling water, allegedly, on a prison guard. And obviously it's the second attack in as many months, because we had the boiling oil incident, didn't we? And it's just kind of alarming, really, that these things are allowed to happen. And apparently, I didn't know this, but prison officers have access to... Sorry, prisoners have access to kettles. So, of course, they can attack at will. And, of course, they can make homemade weapons. That's what we learnt from the last attack a month ago. I just think it sounds like they need to crack down, don't they, on what they can access.
I mean, there are calls for there to be an increase in the sort of protection and weaponry that prison officers can carry. But you're always in this tension between sort of rehabilitation and making sure that people are punished for the heinous crimes they've committed.
Yeah, it's hard to know how you could protect someone if there's just a hatch in a door and someone's got a kettle. It does, I mean, unless they're wearing riot gear to, you know, give food or medication. It's
not have the kettle in the room.
Not have
exactly.
The kettle in the room.
I think that would make more sense.
The reaction, I mean, this is in The Sun, the reaction of a lot of the readers I was seeing in the comments, you know, and their Sun readers is, you know, why should they be having Xboxes? I mean, obviously, Xbox is not a weapon, but what they're saying is that it's Xboxes, it's kettles, it's TVs, it's an easy life in prison. So that's currently the reaction that's going on a bit online.
I'm sure it's not quite an easy life in prison, but...
Well, that's what the Sun readers are feeling.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that the Southport killer is able to further this notoriety, which he seems to revel in, have that awful mugshot on the paper, again, get this attention, and obviously at the expense of somebody's safety as well. We
hope the prison guard is all right, and obviously there will be more calls from the Ministry of Justice for there to be increased protection, as you say. All right, let's move on to the Eye then, Shona. And this is all about reform. Yeah,
I mean, it's all going in the same direction. Perhaps no surprise to see that Reform UK has now taken a record 10-point lead over Labour in a poll. As always, it's just one poll. But what's really striking, I think, about this coverage is the language, and it being referred by one of the pollsters as a full-on assault on the political order, which kind of echoes what Farage is saying, where he says last week's election result and this opinion polling shows us that the two-party system is now dead. Quite strong and inflammatory language. Some of the detail is quite interesting, though. Unsurprisingly, in this polling, Reform is having a 16-point lead on immigration policy amid public anger about that, but also a 3-point lead on welfare and benefits, which is really interesting because I'm not actually aware of Reform having any coherent policies on that, or actually coherent policies on immigration. But obviously what we're seeing is a sort of protest vote, or rather protest polling. So there's a long time to go till a future general election.
There is, but I mean, it's only one poll, as we say, but it's the latest poll that shows the same thing. It's a fascinating moment that we're seeing here.
Yeah, it's all building up into this narrative, and it's amazing to see it in the Eye newspaper as well, I think, because you typically see this kind of thing in more of a right-leaning newspaper. And I think the Labour Party will be reading this and taking it into account as they form their own welfare policies and their own immigration policies. So, yeah, it's very interesting.
I don't know if we've got the inside pages on that big screen there, but there's one of the sidebar stories here is a call from a former Labour politician to channel Margaret Thatcher. I mean, I wouldn't have expected that to start happening, would you?
Yeah, well, I think Keir Starmer was complimenting her last year, was he not, in some fashion? So it doesn't really surprise me that much. And I mean, yeah, Labour might have to think about their policies, but they actually have to govern, whereas Reform just have to shout to the sidelines and say that all the other politicians have got it wrong without offering viable alternatives, of course, at this point.
See when the next poll comes through, the big poll that matters, of course, in a number of years' time. All right, Charlotte, story in the Mail.
Yeah, so this is a secret affair. The head of the Royal Navy has been suspended for having an affair with a female officer. And what's interesting about this story is that the hypocrisy behind it, because he's been leading a campaign in 2021 and 2022 to stop improper behaviour in the Navy. And obviously that's, you know, the cornerstone of what he does is to act with propriety. And yeah, he's been suspended, allegedly. This affair's happened, and it's actually hitting a lot of the front pages today. Yeah, it's just one of those things where you just can't really believe that somebody who's so outwardly spoken about proper behaviour in the Navy has been having this affair all along.
and the first time a head of the Navy's faced a misconduct probe in 500 years. I don't think they really had them about 50 years ago, but...
I was thinking that, yeah, the first time in 500 years. I'm not sure that...
Not sure they were looking at misconduct back in the day.
Probably encouraging it 500 years ago, but yeah.
Yeah, it is quite unusual to see, you know, a secret affair, an alleged secret affair, making the front pages. We're kind of not really so accustomed to that these days. People are a bit more open-minded, but obviously, as Charlotte says, you know, when you're talking about someone who's railed against these kind of inappropriate relationships, it obviously is very newsworthy.
Yes. I found it interesting that he was named and she wasn't. That's something that might be up for debate.
Maybe tomorrow, Sunday. All right, Shona, Charlotte, thanks for that. More from you later on this morning. We've run short of time there, but of course, stay with us. Plenty more to come this morning on the Breakfast programme. We'll bring you the very latest of the situation between India and Pakistan as both sides exchanged fire overnight. And in the last hour, the Indian Foreign Ministry have said that if there can be reconciliation and a lessening of tensions, they will reciprocate. We wait to see what the Pakistani response will be.
We arrive